It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders on his drive. Alan, how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Another day of practice in the books.
Another day of paradise. Wrapping up week one of OTAs. Legitimately had to ask you that to make sure. I thought that was the case, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, both this week and next week. So I guess it'd be a good time to just kind of reset for the week and tell me what, if anything, you could have possibly learned first week of OTAs.
Oh, I think we learned a lot. Really a lot. Now, what's the most important thing? I don't know. There's a lot. I wrote today about Brandon Johnson getting an opportunity as the starting X receiver without DK Metcalf in there. I don't think I had that in my notebook beforehand. We talked about Beanie Bishop being the starting slot corner. I don't think I saw that coming. So I think that's like in terms of like sort of positional stuff. That's probably been the biggest thing I've learned. But I mean, there's a lot, man. It's good to catch up with some guys. I think in general, you're just trying to learn about the people and the new guys, and then what's different about the ones that are back. We talked about, Cole Holcomb looks bigger, Broderick Jones looks slenderer and more athletic, and I was really impressed by Jared Alexander today, who is back as the DB's coach. Really, really working that group through scenario after scenario, and just looking for what's different mostly, and I think there's a good bit of it.
We spent so much time talking about guys that aren't there, and we are actually going to do quite a bit of that on this episode because I promised we would talk about TJ Watt. But, talking about the guys that are there, you mentioned Brandon Johnson, kind of a forgotten man who was around all of last year in that wide receiver room. For as much as we talked about guys that aren't there, maybe we should talk about more guys that are there. And I don't want you to like spoil your story or anything like that in terms of writing about Brandon Johnson, but is he again, we have not talked about him at all within this, calculus, if you will, with building this wide receiver room. Do you think that's maybe a mistake that we haven't mentioned him up to this point?
I mean, no, because the team treated him like an afterthought last year. He's a guy who had some success in Denver in 2022, 2023, came to Pittsburgh. There was a building connection with Russell Wilson. I think a lot of us thought hey, this is a guy that can contribute. And then even though the Steelers wide receiver rotation throughout last year was Van and Scotty and Skoranek and not very inspiring, they never even gave him a shot. So I think it was fair for us to assume they were going to continue to not give him a shot. I was a little surprised he wanted to come back, but he is getting a shot now. So we'll see if he's able to make the most of it. Plenty of OTA opportunities never turn into more than that, but he certainly has that right now.
Whether it's the Brandon Johnsons of the world getting opportunity as the number one guy in that spot, or Beanie Bishop currently being the number one nickel. I was wondering if there's any other spots, players that are catching your eye at this point in the year where it's like maybe a guy in a spot where you wouldn't have expected him to be in the calendar.
Yeah, I talked to Max Hurleman, the one of the last guys signed try out at rookie camp. We had talked about him, I think, a little bit, right? A guy without a position, really. Played running back at Colgate and a little bit of wide receiver, also returned punts, then went to Notre Dame where they played him at corner, but he never really played corner, mostly just returned punts and kicks and covered kicks. Steelers listed him as a running back, and in rookie camp, he was with the running backs. First week of OTAs, he spent the whole time with the wide receivers. I don't know what's going to happen with him. We talked today a little bit about, how do you even, who do you look up to? And he goes, well, Julian Edelman, that's like the only one, right? Like guys that kind of come into the league without a position, use special teams as their way to, get onto a roster and then kind of from there turn it into a career. So interesting guy, really smart guy, picked up a couple of positions pretty quickly, which is difficult to do. I don't know what that's going to turn into, but it's definitely interesting. It's not the usual way to go about things.
Well, that just tells me at mandatory minicamp he's going to be playing corner then. They're just going through his college career in offseason as well.
If I know Arthur Smith, that guy's getting some reps at tight end eventually. Like, there's no way.
How big is How big is he?
He's a little short. He's a little on the short side for tight end. I got to say, he's probably about 5'10", 5'11". So I don't know, but maybe fullback. We'll see.
Any other general OTA takeaways? I could have segued that tight end talking to something else, but
I know. I left it out there for you.
Are there any other OTAs talk that you wanted to dive into before we go that route? So
it's like I made the no-look pass and you turned down the shot.
Passed it right. It's like that that video, the clip of Jackie Moon, and they're just passing it back and forth. No, I got it. Get back.
I think the biggest overall takeaway, the defense is aware of what happened last year, and I think there's an undercurrent of displeasure. There's a bad taste in the mouth of the Steelers defense still, and I think that's probably a good thing. But you can, when the offense wins a rep, they're pissed. and it's OTAs, like who cares, whatever. And you can still kind of feel it. Like that's a proud group that did not hold up to their own expectations last year.
And I understand there's more returning guys than there are not, but like, how does a new guy factor into that, right? Like Slay or, a Malik Harrison who wasn't part of that group down the stretch.
I think they just feed off the energy of they're just the new guys are so focused on just making sure they don't screw up that they don't have the bandwidth to be like talking smack or mad or anything. They're just making sure they're not the ones that screwed up. But the returning guys are the ones that are really driving the energy for that unit. And guys like Deshaun Elliott and Minkah Fitzpatrick and, Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig and Cam Hayward, obviously out here all 3 days.
I think Deshaun Elliott's got a couple chips on the shoulder right now, too.
Deshaun Elliott has no shoulders, all chips. There's no shoulder left. It's just pad, chip. That's all he's got.
All this talk about TJ Watt needing a new contract extension. I brought it up to you whether I thought, or to see whether you thought that was going to be something that they even approached with Deshaun Elliott this offseason. There's been like zero chatter about it. And I think that he's wanting to prove something, like that last year was not just a fluke.
He had a little media scrum earlier, and I haven't gone through it. I don't know if we talked about it or not, but there's some guys I like to talk to one-on-one. Deshaun Elliott's one of those guys because he'll give you the goods. He'll give you the goods. But I want to know what he really thinks about his contract situation.
Have you made the mistake yet of calling Slay Darius?
I have not, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do there. I guess we'll just go with Slay.
I tried to be, I don't know if accommodating is the right word. Like, there's no reason for me to push back against that. If that's what he wants, that's what he wants. So be it. I think I'm going to have a hard time at some point not saying Darius Slay, and just saying Slay. So there's going to be certainly a transition period, I think, there for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to call him Darius Slay, but I mean, I will kindly use Slay only as a shortened version of his name. But I mean, as a writer, I'm using your full name. I'm sorry. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, he also streams sometimes on Twitch. I'll tap it. This is, by the way, consistent. This isn't like a gimmick that he's trying to pull with the media there.
Oh no,
hard time. No. He's very serious about the big play Slay thing. So I can confirm that from tapping into a couple of his streams. But anyway, all right, so there we go. Good stuff for OTAs. We'll see what the 3 days next week bring us in terms of that. But you mentioned, Arthur Smith, always looking for new toys. One that he has had at multiple stops in the past, Jonnu Smith. The Steelers may be showing some interest in. He's in a contract year. He's looking for a pay raise. I guess I didn't realize he was only making $4.8 million this year, coming off a Pro Bowl season, 900 yards, very good season in Miami, looking for a new deal. And the Steelers reportedly showing some interest in there, which I can understand and also not understand. And I'm curious to get your view on this. On one hand, he's a talented pass catcher. No, he doesn't necessarily play the wide receiver position, but see two tight ends on the field a ton. Played 24% of his snaps outside. Can also obviously line up in the slot a ton. So I get it from that standpoint. But he needs a new deal. So, like, what does that side of it look like, and what's the draft capital look like going back as well?
Yeah. So, well, first let's start with like what I've heard about this deal. I don't think this is something that the Steelers were driving the conversation about in terms of like going and seeking out Jonnu Smith. I think they're looking for receiving options in general. Would it surprise me if this phone call started about a different player? No, not at all. Tyreek Hill sort of, I mean, the Dolphins cannot trade him, but I'm sure Omar Khan has tried anyway. And
see, we talked about that though, and to me that'd be interesting, just because, like, I'm not saying 1-to-1 comparison with the stuff with George. I don't know internally how he's viewed by his teammates, Tyreek Hill and stuff, but I think one problem child exiting. It's interesting to bring in another one.
Yeah, I don't know that they would have done it, but I think you still got to call and see what's available, and see what the price tag is, and at least know what the market is, even if you're not that interested. From what I hear, this is something that is. I feel like the Steelers' interest is being publicized as a negotiating ploy here. I don't really think this is anything that is super serious, so I'm not really expecting this to happen. But I don't think we should just discount the idea of it happening because Jonnu Smith is a tight end. Look, the Steelers play a ton of two tight end. And like Darnell Washington has not really become a more dangerous receiving weapon than we thought. He's never really shown the athleticism that he had, his combine numbers suggested that he might have. He's not a down the field receiving threat in any fashion. I mean, certainly if you get him the ball in his hands, he can run with it. But he's not Jonnu Smith. He's not Pat Freiermuth either. If you want a balanced formation where you want to play two of those guys, the Steelers don't really have one. I know the Steelers fan base is very excited about Donald Parham. Seems like a great guy. He talked a little bit today. He could not get on the field in a bad group of tight ends in Denver last year. Like, I would not be expecting him to be a big contributor. Obviously, Connor Hayward mostly there for special teams and plays some fullback and H-back and that kind of thing. Bit of a Swiss Army knife, not really a true inline tight end. So if you're looking at the problem of there aren't enough guys to have three wide receivers and a tight end all be really good pass catchers, then maybe the solution is have two of them be tight end. And we've seen this in Arthur Smith's offense before. I mean, Jonnu Smith was playing next to Kyle Pitts in Atlanta. Like, this was a thing that worked for them. So, I mean, I don't think it's crazy that if the Steelers look for a wide receiver and there isn't one out there to say, hey, how about a tight end? Now, Smith specifically, like you say, with the contract, I don't know. I don't know what he wants. I don't know what would make him happy. He's getting up there. I don't think a long-term commitment seems like it should make sense. But, I mean, I think he's underpaid at $4.5 million. So if they want to go say, like, I don't know, 2 years, 20, like, I don't feel like that's – I don't feel like that's a problem for the Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the acquisition cost, what's your thought on that?
I don't have any idea. It would probably depend on, like I said, like I feel like this is being driven by either Miami or Jonnu Smith, who I believe is Drew Rosenhaus' client.
Yes.
If it's the player that wants to be traded, then the compensation might be a little bit lower. If the team, if it's the team that's driving this, then maybe you get them for a little bit less. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, by the reporting of it, it makes it seem like Jonnu would like to stay in Miami, just wants more money in doing so.
Yeah, so, I mean, that to me is abundantly clear. I also don't understand why. Like, there has to be a more tight end needy team than Pittsburgh that would. Like, in theory, if you're trying to start a bidding war for Jonnu Smith, Pittsburgh would not be my first call.
I think Artie Smith. They're like, wait, where's Artie Smith?
Well, hey, there have been. I mean, we've seen a lot of guys who played for Arthur Smith like playing for Arthur Smith. That's pretty clear at this point. That you've got a number of guys: Patterson, Miller. There's been. Oh, it just feels like
Jefferson.
half the. Michael Pruitt. I feel like half the locker room last year was like guys who Arthur Smith had coached before. So clearly there's an attractiveness there from that standpoint, but Steelers are pretty well set at tight end with Pat. I mean, they could definitely make it work with Jonnu Smith. Like, he would make their team better, absolutely. But I don't think that they're thinking that's like the best way to go about improving the team right now.
I guess, leaning into the strength even a little bit more, because they have a bunch of dudes that are really good over the middle of the field, assuming that the quarterback can get them the ball over there. But, I think there's still some questions about winning on the outside still, even if you add a Jonnu Smith. So you're adding a talented pass catcher. Yeah, you're adding a talented pass catcher. And when you're this needy, I don't think that you can necessarily be picky about where you're getting that pass catcher from. But I don't think it's solving everything that we're talking about in terms of what's missing in this room.
Put you on the spot. Would you rather trade for Jonnu Smith or sign Keenan Allen?
Ooh. Sign Keenan Allen.
I think I'd rather trade for Jonnu Smith.
Don't know what the cost is, and maybe it's not much. Maybe it's like just a day 3 picker.
Let's say it's 2/4.
Yeah, I think I'd rather sign Keenan Allen for a year than. Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it. You'd be able to talk me into that trade, and would you say 2 years, $20 million, if that's what it is for signing Jonnu Smith? Yeah, if I'm just looking at this from the lens of doing what you can in 2025 and making no commitments beyond that, I think Keenan Allen would make more sense from that standpoint. You're obviously not giving up draft capital to do so. When you sign Keenan Allen, you're also under the assumption, okay, you're probably getting 10 to 12 games of the 17.
Yeah.
So
I think I would rather do neither of those moves and wait out the Green Bay Packers to have to cut a receiver.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was hoping that was the question that you were going to ask me, whether I'd rather like trade a 4th for Romeo Doubs or Dontavian Wicks, or trade a 4th.
I think if it's Doubs or Wicks, that's clearly a better option.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not close. That's not even a conversation.
Speaking of needing new contracts, all right, it's time to talk about TJ Watt. JJ Watt, his brother, was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, which is why I think there were some people hoping that we would get to this yesterday. But hey, we had like a 40-minute episode yesterday. We got rolling and had so much fun on here and couldn't stop. So I got to talk about TJ today. Obviously not there for OTAs. We've discussed how, absences are what they are. You can make of them what you make of them. That is the one to maybe make more of because there is the contract situation going on. So want to ask first and foremost, with JJ Watt's appearance on the Pat McAfee show, assuming that you've at least, gone through what was said on there or have a general idea of what was said on there, what you make of that, and if you know anything in terms of the TJ Watt situation.
I'm a little confused. This is the second time JJ Watt has gone publicly and said that you should take care of your players sooner, that the Steelers made a mistake in waiting to sign TJ. And I guess I don't understand that perspective. I don't understand how TJ is being harmed or feels like he's being harmed by the process playing out on the timeline that the Steelers have traditionally done business, which is right before training camp. I'd love to hear, and I wish that had been a question asked of JJ, and I will ask TJ when I get the opportunity to. I don't understand why that's a talking point, that you should have done this, or what difference does it make? I don't know.
Well, it's going to end up being to his benefit, right? I mean, if anything, he should be saying the team's dumb for paying him much more than they could have gotten him for. If you want to say that, but I'm in agreement in terms of it's not what's the harm to the player. If anything, it's the wallets of the ownership that you're.
Yeah, but if JJ's bringing it up twice, I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like there's a level of someone's upset by that this hasn't happened yet, and I can't really.
Well, we've talked about the idea of, and again, I don't want to speak for anybody because I don't know. We've talked about the idea of how when you're talking about this type of money, the difference is wanting to say that you're ahead of the other guy. The actual money itself doesn't necessarily matter. It's the pecking order that it shows where you're making that much money. Maybe for whatever reason, he actually would have taken more pride in being the first one amongst the group to sign. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you're first, then you're going to get passed.
I know. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what makes sense
so
here.
I mean, I don't really understand that line of thinking. I fully expect the Steelers to sign T.J. Watt. I fully expect the contract to be at or near $40 million a year. I think he's worth every penny of it. I don't think they have a better use for that money that they sort of kind of have to spend. And like, to me, this is an easy. That's the other part about this. Is that to me, this is a fairly easy deal. Okay, yeah. TJ, Myles Garrett got $40 million a year. Do you either want $1 million a year more total so that you can say you got more than Myles Garrett, or do you want a slightly more guaranteed at the same or less total so that you can say you got more money guaranteed than Myles Garrett? Which one do you want? Like, and then like 3 years or 4. That's really all there is to negotiate here. Like, this should be a fairly easy negotiation. The price has been set by external forces. How far from 40 million could they possibly go, one way or the other?
Yeah.
I don't like, even if you think that TJ Watt is a better player than Myles Garrett. And by the way, I do think TJ Watt is a better player than Myles Garrett. He's a year older. Like, he's been slightly more injury prone. How much more money could you possibly justify giving him on top of the 40 million? Like I said, like another $1 million a year, another $2 million. Like, where are you going? I just feel like they're so confined by what has already been out there in the market that I don't understand why this is seeming like it might be difficult or contentious.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you next, is because we've talked about thinking that it won't be. You know, you looked at the timeline of how the contract got done in 2021, and we waited around, and it happened a week before the season began. And we felt like that was not going to be the case this time, and it wouldn't be as contentious. But with the messaging that's coming out, you know, whether it is, if there was anything meant by TJ's Deuce's post or his brother talking, I mean, there's nobody closer to the situation than him. I think when he's speaking about this situation, he wasn't willing to dive further into it, which tells me that he knows what, like, TJ has probably laid out what he can and can't say, or it's very clear to him what he can and can't say. So I think the messaging, even though it's not coming from TJ himself, it's coming from JJ. That leads me to believe that he does feel some type of way about it. But to your point of what you said before, it's like, you know, what exactly is the reason? I don't know that we're going to get that answer. Even when you eventually are able to ask him, what's that response going to be? How much truthfulness will there be within that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's definitely curious. I expected this to be smooth sailing. Not that I thought it would be done by now. In fact, my expectation for Steelers with players under contract is that those conversations have not even seriously been broached at this point in the calendar year, usually. That's not what they're focused on doing business right now. They're still trying to add to the team. You're not calling the Dolphins about trying to trade for Jonnu Smith and then also in contract negotiations with TJ Watt. Like, you have one person at the helm of that job, and he generally divides his attention in sort of clusters. Like, it's all free agency, then it's all the draft, then it's second wave free agency, then it's contract extensions. Like, and not that you can't do it differently, but that seems like that's been a very profitable way to do business for the Steelers. And I don't really know what the problem is with it.
Do you think it would be, I don't know, fair of TJ to want to buck that trend? I mean, what if he's not trying to do business the same way the Steelers have done in the past?
Well, if you want to buck, I mean, with negotiations as always, I guarantee if TJ Watt walks into Omar Khan's office today and says, I want to play for $35 million a year, the deal's done. They'll start to drop the contract right then and there. Like, if you want it, if you're in a hurry, then take less money. I don't think I don't understand the reason to be in a hurry. Also, TJ's got a newborn at home, so like, I don't even know why he'd be wanting to deal with contract stuff right now. It's very strange.
Here's the thing is I wouldn't have, like you, it's not like I would expect that this contract would be done right now, but the only reason that we're talking about it being contentious is honestly, even his Instagram post, I probably could have brushed off and said maybe that has nothing to do with this, but like it's been his brother now twice talking about this on the Pat McAfee show, where to me, it is now worth talking about to this point. Like, because if that wouldn't have happened, I would have thought the same. Like, he's just chilling at home, has a newborn baby. He doesn't have to be there, whatever. But now there's like this other side of it that is worth talking about. And I don't know. I mean, how much deeper are we going to dig in? How far is he willing to dig in to show his displeasure with the way that things are going? I don't know. I mean, maybe this is it. Maybe it's just going to be JJ speaking for him on Pat McAfee show once every other week or something. I don't know.
And I guess we're going to find out in a week because OTAs are optional. Minicamp is not. So a week from Tuesday, he's either got to be in Pittsburgh or he's going to start to get fined. And man, I don't know what about this process would have gone so wrong already that he is willing to take that drastic of a step. I'm not saying that he would be wrong to. I can't think of what that would be.
How interesting could that be? I mean, within the net, when that starts, when mandatory camp starts, we're going to be obviously still on Rodgers' watch, I assume. And now also this looming TJ Watt thing to be wondering, is he going to show up or is he going to be willing to face these? Because that, I mean, we're talking about it seeming contentious right now just because of the messaging. If he starts not showing up for mandatory stuff, man, like this thing really took a turn that I didn't see coming.
I guess we're going to find out, I mean, there's, I don't really know what to expect right now. And then look, OTAs for a player of TJ Watt's caliber and experience are meaningless. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, minicamp is not going to matter on the field, but the fact that he would be willing to sit out and eat a pretty hefty fine to make some kind of point, very rarely do I see a situation and feel like I don't understand what's going on, but I feel like I don't understand what's going on here.
Don't understand what's going on. And also, I mean, I think based off the conversations we've had in the past about this, when somebody asked, did not see, like I would have had this as like 0% that this was going to happen.
I mean, him not being at OTAs.
No, right. Yeah.
Not surprised by that really, but like, the fact that we're talking about there being like a real contentious negotiation here, yeah, that's a little surprising
to me. Okay. Anything else to add about the TJ Watt stuff?
I don't think so.
Nothing else that you've heard from anybody regarding the situation, though. Right?
I've heard not a peep.
Okay.
Nothing. Other than he's been in contact with the players. Herbig and Highsmith and Hayward and those guys, he's been talking to them, and I'm sure they've been aware of what his plan was. It's not like he's, letting his teammates down in any way. I want to make that clear. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's all.
That's definitely important too. Oh, real quick, do want to circle back. Probably should have talked about this before we switch to the TJ topic and we're on the Jonnu thing. Because Jordan Schultz did put out that they've had preliminary discussions about adding another pass catcher, or playmaker was the word that was used, which I thought was interesting because that kind of opens it up obviously beyond receiver. And we were just talking about Jonnu Smith. What do you make of that? Can you speak to that at all in terms of them broaching the market for a playmaker in general, maybe not just a receiver?
I mean, I think that's just trying to shoehorn Jonnu Smith into their previous desire to get a wide receiver, which has been well reported. Okay. So, yeah, I mean,
I'd say, is there another tight end that comes to mind? Like,
it's a good question. I can't think of one. Mm-hmm. Tight end. That's the other thing is like tight ends are not plentiful at the moment in the NFL. Yeah. There's a lot of teams that don't feel like they have a good tight end. So I mean, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, if they were to take, if Miami were to put out there, hey, we're shopping Jonnu Smith, I think that there's quite a bit of interest where the Steelers aren't playing in that ballpark to acquire him.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I got.
What did we say we had to talk about on Friday? I thought there was something that we laid out the roadmap for the rest of the
Well, I
week.
said if Aaron Rodgers signed today, then TJ would have to get pushed
it
to
was
Friday.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, go ahead and sign, and then we can talk about that tomorrow because OTAs are done. So hopefully we get DB back in the building tomorrow. But Alan, until then, tell the people they can find you.
Hey, Saunders _ PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now, sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus, and we will give you a shout out down at the bottom. Patch Adams and Manish Mittal getting another day there. And then like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. Smitty, I can't see the numbers here. I need an assist on the
I got you.
On the
we are
uniform number of the day.
We are at 15,700 and Jason Worlds subscribers.
Jason Worlds was 95? 93.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Eason.
Yes.
Nick Eason. 93.
Yeah, that's actually one of the few that were on my short list.
There you go.
But Jason, I just love the Jason Worlds thing, man. Like, what do you have, like a 10-sack season and then decide to be a Jehovah's Witness? Just retired.
His Twitter handle was at World's Greatest, which is like a top 5 all-time athlete Twitter handle.
Unbelievable. Let us know your favorite number 93 for the Steelers down below in the comments. Anything that we talked about today, give us your thoughts on a question for a future episode. All that good stuff that we always talk about. As Alan said, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Good luck beating our last 5-star review, but go ahead and give it a shot with your review. We appreciate that. Hit us up on TikTok as well, Steelers Afternoon Drive, and then you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.